I cried at my father's funeral and my family laughed. Not openly, of course. That would have been too honest. No, they exchanged smirks, a snort disguised as a cough, whispered side-eyes between my cousins. My mother didn't even look at me, just tightened her jaw like my tears were an inconvenience, another disappointment. My older brother, Mark, patted my back with the same patronizing motion he used on his golden retriever when it failed obedience school. "You always were the sensitive one," he muttered near my ear. I was kneeling by the casket, fingers clenched white against the oak edge, trying to hold myself together. My father, my anchor, the only man who ever listened to me without turning it into a competition, was gone. And they treated it like intermission at a bad play. Like my grief was performance art they didn't buy tickets for. That was the moment something inside me split. Not loud, not angry, quiet, hollow, a clean, cold crack. I didn't say a word to them during the entire reception. Just watched the way they circled my mother like vultures, like the real death hadn't happened yet. We had a small, formal reception afterward at the family estate. Yes, estate. My father, despite being a quiet, practical man, had built a modest empire through his accounting firm and some eerily well-timed investments in real estate. That house on the hill where we grew up paid off before I hit puberty. 3 cars, 2 beach properties. My mother called it legacy. I called it the thing they'd kill each other over. I knew it wouldn't take long, and I was right. 3 days after the funeral, Mark invited himself into my apartment, already tipsy on the scotch he thought made him look refined. He dropped onto my couch, man-spreading like he owned the place, and said, "So, have you talked to Mom about Dad's will yet?" I didn't respond. I just stared at him, his expensive watch glinting in the light, the veins on his temple pulsing slightly. He kept going. "Look, I know you were close, but let's be real, Dad wouldn't leave everything asterisk to you. That's not fair. I mean, you don't even want kids, right? What are you gonna do with a beach house?" I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, come on, don't play dumb," she told us. "The reading's next week, but Mom already peeked. I figured she told you first." She always thought you needed a head start in life. I felt dizzy. I hadn't talked to anyone. Not Mom, not the estate lawyer. My dad had said nothing about the will before he died, just that everything was taken care of and he didn't want a circus. "Respect and clarity," he told me. "That's all I want after I'm gone." So why the hell was my brother talking like I inherited the crown jewels? I didn't sleep that night. I sat with my father's watch, an old Seiko with a cracked leather band, and remembered the last thing he said to me in the hospital. It wasn't profound, just "don't let them twist you." And I didn't understand what he meant until the will was read. It was a formal affair. Wood-paneled law office, glass water tumblers, and the family gathered like they were attending a royal sentencing. My mother wore black like she was still in mourning, but her fingers tapped an impatient rhythm on her clutch. Mark and his wife Jenna were whispering something that made her laugh behind perfectly manicured nails. My cousin Leela had flown in from New York just for this and looked as bored as she did at every family function. I sat alone. The lawyer, Mr. Halpern, opened the envelope and cleared his throat. "I'll be reading the will of Mr. Richard Alton." He requested I proceed with no interruptions. And then he began, to my wife Margaret, the jewelry and art collection, the BMW, and a monthly stipend. To my son Mark, the lake cabin in Vermont and $50,000. To my son Daniel, the primary residence, both beach houses, the remaining investment portfolio, and full control of the family trust. The room went silent. For one long, glorious second, then hell broke loose. My mother stood up first, voice like ice. "This must be a mistake." Mark jumped in before Halpern could answer. "This is bullshit. Dad would never do this." Jenna started crying, loudly, performatively, and muttered something about how they were planning to move into the lake house after renovations. Even Leela looked up from her phone, wide-eyed. "Wait. Daniel got the trust." I just sat there, numb, like the room was underwater and I was sinking through it. I didn't want this. Not like this. Not from a dead man who should have still been here, but they didn't see grief. They saw threat, opportunity, and they turned on me like wolves. Mark slammed his palm on the oak table, making Jenna flinch. "You manipulated him," he hissed. "You always knew how to make him feel sorry for you. You were his little charity case." The words didn't land the way he wanted. They didn't cut, not because they weren't cruel, but because they were so wildly wrong. My father didn't pity me. He trusted me. That was what killed them. All of them, Mr. Halpern looked up over his glasses, calm but firm. Mr. Alton made these decisions of sound mind. We reviewed his wishes 3 separate times, the last being just 2 weeks before he passed. He was clear and unwavering. Mark's face flushed red, like someone had cracked open his skull and poured molten rage inside. So that's it, that's what we're supposed to accept. Halpern shrugged, that's the law. Jenna shot me a daggered glance. Did you even thank him for this? Or did you just sit there, counting zeros like a little leech? I wanted to scream at her, to tell her I didn't ask for a damn dime. That I would have traded every property, every dollar to have my father back for even one more day. But what was the point? Grief didn't matter here. Grief wasn't currency. Power was. My mother didn't speak until the very end. She sat still, too still, her hands folded neatly on her lap. When Halpern asked if she had any questions, she looked directly at me and said, "You'll regret this, Daniel." Not he'll regret this, not my father. As if I wrote the will, as if I orchestrated the whole thing like some long con. I stared at her, waiting for some sign of the woman who used to sing to me when I had night terrors, the one who slipped handwritten notes into my lunchbox through middle school. But she was gone, had probably been gone for years, buried long before Dad ever died. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal calls, passive-aggressive messages, and family gossip leaking through every crack. My cousin Leela sent me a screenshot of a group chat Mark had created called Undoing Daniel's Disaster. They were already trying to find loopholes, claiming undue influence, emotional manipulation. Some even said I must have blackmailed him. Blackmail? I was the one who sat by his hospital bed every night, who brought him audio recordings of old jazz concerts because the morphine made it hard for him to sleep. Mark visited twice, once with Jenna, once alone when Dad was too far gone to open his eyes, but no one wanted to hear that. One night, after another thinly veiled threat from Mark's lawyer, I got drunk and walked barefoot through the old family house. My house now, the creaking wood under my feet didn't sound right, like the place was rejecting me. I ended up in Dad's office, the room he'd always kept locked when we were kids. A sanctuary of dark wood, green leather, and glass cabinets filled with old books that smelled like time itself. His desk drawers were mostly empty, except one. Inside was a sealed envelope with my name written in his careful, deliberate hand. No label, no date, just my name. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside there was a letter, Daniel. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And if things have gone the way I expect, your mother and brother are probably circling like sharks already. I didn't make these decisions lightly. I know this will set fire to every brittle bridge left in this family, but I trust you to handle the flame. Mark only ever saw me as competition. Your mother, God bless her, stopped seeing me at all years ago. But you listened. You loved me quietly. And you were the only one who ever asked me what I wanted before deciding what I needed. You'll feel guilty. Don't you earn this the hard way. Not with blood, with loyalty. Don't let them break you. And for the love of God, don't sell the lake cabin. Mark doesn't deserve it, but he'll burn it down before he lets it sit empty. Keep it in the family, for your own sake. Duh. I read the letter 4 times, memorized every word like scripture, and then I cried harder than I had at the funeral. Not for the money, not for the house. For the fact that I finally had proof he saw me, that I wasn't invisible after all. The next day, I got a call from Jenna. I just think we should meet, civilly. This doesn't have to be war, Daniel. I should have hung up. I should have known what she was really after, but I agreed to meet. We met at a small cafe downtown. Neutral ground, public, safe. Jenna showed up in all white, like a mourner at the wrong funeral. Flowing blouse, oversized sunglasses, hair just a little too perfect for someone supposedly grieving. She smiled when she saw me, but there was nothing behind it. It was the smile of someone rehearsing kindness to deliver a threat. Daniel, she said, sliding into the booth across from me like we were old friends. Thanks for coming. I didn't answer, just nodded and watched her stir a sugar cube into a coffee she never ordered. She was always like this, performative, calculated, always acting like someone was filming her life for a reality show only she could see. She got to it faster than I expected. Look, this whole thing has gotten out of hand. The family is hurting, and Mark, he's angry. You know how he is, emotional, impulsive. I laughed just once, a short, bitter exhale. Mark called me a leech. You cried over a cabin you never visited, and my mother threatened me. I think you all are doing just fine. Jenna didn't flinch. She leaned in slightly, voice dropping just enough to sound intimate, like this was some shared secret. We all know your father loved you, Daniel. No one's disputing that, but what you have, what he left you, it's a asterisk lot asterisk. And honestly, you don't even have kids. No partner. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment. There it was, the soft blackmail, the veiled cruelty wrapped in concern. You think I don't deserve it. She gave me a sad smile. I think we should be practical. You're not like Mark. You don't need all this space, all this stress. We could buy out the lake cabin, or one of the beach properties, just something to make this feel more fair. Fair. God, that word. They always used it when they meant, give us what we want. I sat back, arms crossed, heart pounding in my ears. Let me ask you something, Jenna. Did you ever once visit my dad while he was sick? She blinked. Mark went. I didn't ask about Mark. I asked about you, asterisk. She didn't respond. Did you know he couldn't eat solid food the last month? That he begged me not to let them put him on a ventilator? That he asked for Miles Davis and lemon ice, and to die at home? Asterisk at home, Jenna. And I gave him that while you and your husband were arguing about what color tile you wanted for your kitchen remodel. Her face fell just a fraction, then it hardened. This is going to end badly for you, Daniel. I leaned in, voice low and steady. No, this already ended for all of you. You just haven't accepted it yet. I stood up and left her sitting there with her untouched coffee and her performance wilting in the midday sun. After that, the gloves came off. Letters from lawyers, requests to revisit the will. Social media rumors, subtle digs about me being unstable, depressed, mentally unfit. One of my aunts even posted a cryptic Facebook status that read, "Money reveals character. Some people will step over corpses for $1." The irony was staggering, but I didn't respond. Not publicly. Not yet. Instead, I did what my father would have done. I started documenting everything. Every call, every message. Every veiled threat. I changed the locks on all the properties, installed cameras, moved the trust to a more secure private firm. If they wanted to try and take this from me, they were going to have to crawl through hell to do it. Then came the final straw. Mark showed up at the family house uninvited. I found him in the study, Dad's study, drunk and furious, rifling through drawers like he thought the will was a prank, and the real one was hidden somewhere in a secret compartment. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked from the doorway. He didn't even pretend to be ashamed, just stood there, eyes glassy and wide. "You think you earned this, you think you're special." "I did think anything," I said. "I just stayed, you ran, that's the difference." He lunged at me. It wasn't a dramatic brawl, no punches, just hands grabbing my collar, breath reeking of whiskey and rage. I shoved him back and he stumbled over the ottoman, collapsing in a pathetic heap against the bookshelf. He lay there for a second, panting, then said something I'll never forget. "You were always Dad's little project, his broken thing. And now you're his revenge." That hit me harder than any punch would have, because maybe, on some level, it was true. Maybe this was my father's final stand against the people who drained him dry. A man who never raised his voice but knew how to make silence echo. I didn't help Mark up. I didn't say another word. I just turned off the lights and left him there in the dark. The next morning, I found a rock through the window of the beach house. It was wrapped in a napkin from the same cafe where I met Jenna. On it, in bold black marker, were the words, "This won't end well." No signature, no attempt at subtlety anymore. I stood there barefoot in the shattered glass, wind from the ocean brushing against my face, and felt something strange settle inside me. Not fear, not sadness. Resolve. My father had given me everything, and they were determined to destroy it, not because they needed it, but because I had it. That day, I went to the police and filed a report. I showed them the rock, the napkin, the call logs, the texts. I knew it wouldn't lead to much. They were family, and the law tends to tread lightly there, but I wanted it on the record. Paper trails mattered. Especially when people started to lose their minds. Then I made a decision. I invited them all to the house. My house, Mark, Jenna, my mother, even Leela, who had been running her mouth to the tabloids. I told them I wanted to talk. That maybe there was a way we could all come to an agreement. They came, of course, like wolves drawn to blood. Mark arrived first, walking in like he still owned the place, sunglasses on indoors, jaw clenched like a boxer entering the ring. Jenna clung to him, already teary-eyed. Leela strutted in with a bottle of wine she didn't even offer to open. And my mother, in her usual black silk and pearls, looked around like she was inspecting the damage after a tornado she hadn't warned anyone about. I sat them down in the living room. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I wanted to give you all one last chance, a chance to hear the truth, and to walk away before this goes further." Mark scoffed. "You mean before you lose in court?" "No," I said calmly, "before you lose whatever's left of your dignity." Then I played the recordings. I had clipped together every voicemail, every threat, every whispered slander they'd left behind in their arrogance. Jenna's cafe confession about buying out the properties, Mark's drunken rant in Dad's study, Leela mocking me to her friends on speakerphone, even my mother telling me on the phone that I'd regret not sharing the wealth. The silence afterward was thick, a tangible thing. My mother's face was stone, but her hand twitched ever so slightly. I looked at each of them one by one. You don't care about Dad. You never did. You cared about what he gave you. About what he could do for you. And now that he's gone, you're all like addicts scrambling for a last hit. Mark shot up, furious. This is manipulation. You planted half of this crap. None of it proves anything. Maybe not in court, I said, standing, but it proves everything to the people watching. I walked to the hallway and brought in the final guest, a reporter from the Times, a friend of Dad's. Quiet, sharp, already recording. I told you, I said, this was your last chance. Now the world gets to see what you've become. Jenna gasped. My mother finally stood, rage bubbling under her skin. You vindictive little boy. You think this makes you righteous? No, I replied, but it makes me honest, and that's more than I can say for any of you. The fallout was immediate. They stormed out, of course. The article came out 3 days later. Nothing illegal, just truth laid bare. Legacy and greed, the family that couldn't let go. It went viral in a day. The comment section was brutal. People saw them for what they were. Entitled, cruel, performative. But the real twist came weeks later. The family trust. My father had placed it in a clause-protected account that I could only access if I chose to remain unmarried and childless for 5 years. Not a punishment, a protection. His words echoed again, don't let them twist you. He knew, always knew, that they would use whoever I loved, whoever I brought into my life, as leverage. That they'd twist them too, and so he protected me the only way he could, with solitude. At first, I hated him for it. Then I understood. Because after the article, after the public turned their faces toward my family's mess, the calls stopped. The threats ended. I stopped checking behind me in the parking lot. Peace, finally. I walked the beach that night, alone, barefoot in the cool sand, and whispered thank you to the ocean. Not for the money, for the silence. I wish I could tell you that silence meant closure. That the storm had passed, the vultures retreated, and I was left with peace in my father's house. But grief doesn't end when the shouting stops. It seeps in quieter now. Through the cracks in old floorboards, in the sound of the grandfather clock ticking too loud at night, in the echo of his voice that still lived in every room, I kept thinking about that letter he left me, the one in the study drawer. He called me his anchor, his quiet strength, and yet I still felt like a ghost in the house he built, a guest holding the keys but not the confidence. 3 weeks after the article, I got a letter, not an email, not a text. A real letter, handwritten in cursive I didn't recognize. The return address was a hospice center just outside of Philadelphia. It was from a woman named Evelyn. She said she had been my father's friend. His close friend in the last 6 months of his life. She'd met him through a support group for caregivers. Her husband had passed a year earlier, and they bonded over jazz, poetry, and as she wrote delicately, the weight of being loved incorrectly by the people closest to us. Her words hit harder than I expected. She said he often talked about me, that he worried about what would happen to me once he was gone, that he knew I would be the last good one left. That he didn't fear death as much as he feared the inheritance, not the money, but the bitterness it would bring. She included something else in the envelope. A folded page torn from a notebook, in my father's unmistakable handwriting. If Daniel is reading this, tell him not to become the silence he protected me with. He's allowed to live, even if they don't let him. I read that line over and over until the page crumpled in my hands. All this time, I thought I was guarding his legacy, but maybe he didn't want me to guard it. Maybe he wanted me to escape it. It took me a few days to process what that meant. Then I made the call. The family trust lawyer, Ms. Shapiro, answered on the first ring. Mr. Alton, is everything all right? Yes, I said. I want to revise the terms of my inheritance. She paused. I'm not sure I understand. I want to establish a second trust, I said, under the same umbrella, one they can't touch but they can see. I want them to know it's there, but not for them. For who, then? For people like Evelyn, for caregivers, hospice workers, kids taking care of dying parents with no one else. I want a fund set up under my father's name. No strings, no politics, just quiet help. Another pause, then softly, I think he'd be proud of that. I didn't do it to be noble. I did it to take back control. Because if the money was going to ruin my family, then it damn well better save someone else. The press picked it up again, of course. The headline this time was less scandalous, more poetic. The Quiet Son. How one man turned his family's fortune into a final act of grace. The family didn't call, didn't write, not even a threat this time, because they knew the money was no longer leverage. It had become a monument, not to wealth but to restraint, to integrity, to quiet power. I stayed in the house a while longer, not because I felt I belonged there, but because I wanted to see it one last time before I let it go. Yeah. I sold it, all of it, the estate, the beach houses, the cabin my father warned me about. I kept only the watch and the study desk. I donated the rest of the furniture, boxed up old photos, left the family portraits behind. Let the past gather dust where it belonged, and then I left, moved to a small town a few states over, bought a little place with a garden and too many trees, started working with a nonprofit tied to the fund. No one there knew my name or cared about my father's obituary. It was perfect. Some nights I still dream of him, not sick, not in the hospital, but at the old cabin, barefoot, holding a coffee mug, nodding silently while Miles Davis plays in the background. No words, just a glance that says, "You did it, kid, you didn't become them." And that's the inheritance I'll never lose.